Did you know that there's a new charitable tax deduction? This means that you can save money by donating to charity and make your dollar go further by giving back to your community. If half of all DMV married couples who don't itemize fully use this new deduction, we would raise $1 billion for local nonprofits. Spur Local's Everyday Giving Pledge is a simple commitment you can make today to give more and give at least half of your donations to local nonprofits. Visit everydaygivingpledge.org to learn more. Have you been to the Library of Congress? If not, Thursdays are the perfect time to visit. Join them after hours for Live at the Library, where cocktails in the iconic Thomas Jefferson Building meets live music, author talks, crafting, exhibits, and more. Every week is different, free, and inspired by the library's collections. Don't miss their Summer Movies on the Lawn, screenings of pop classics from the National Film Registry, starting July 9th with Clueless. Plan your next night out. Visit loc.gov/live.
This is Your City Could Be Better, because it could be. I'm David Plotz. If you love your city and still complain about it, you're in the right place. Sidewalks are a sneakily important indicator of a healthy city. Sidewalks make pedestrian life much safer and more pleasant. They can make urban transit possible for people with disabilities. They help businesses. Sidewalks create visual order, they protect children, and so on and so on. Communities without sidewalks tend to be exceptionally rich and practicing exclusionary zoning to discourage people from visiting them, or they tend to be poor and lacking investment. Denver and its citizens have now taken it upon themselves to upgrade their sidewalk network, and I am pretty excited to talk about it. And so is CityCast Denver host Bree Davies. Would your city be better if it made its sidewalks a whole lot better? Bree Davies, welcome to Your City Could Be Better.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about sidewalks.
They're the best.
They are.
Why are sidewalks good?
You know, so they've been around for thousands of years, as I was researching, but as we know them today in an American city, it's not that old. Like if you look at old pictures of New York, like at the turn of the last century, there's like people wandering in the street amongst horses and, but with the advent and then this push for cars, we really needed safe places for pedestrians. And that's where sidewalks became so crucial. And that's why I care about them. But I have to say my big turning point into becoming a sidewalk freak, a sidewalk advocate, was working with the disability community. It opened my eyes in ways I could not even explain to why we need safer sidewalks or sidewalks at all.
So what are some of the ways in which sidewalks help people with disabilities, but also the rest of us?
Well, like most things that improve the lives of people with disabilities, it actually makes life better for all of us all around. I think the best example that folks give is if your sidewalk, for instance, is wide enough for someone who uses a power chair, which is a wheelchair with a motor, it's also good for somebody who uses a cane or someone that's pushing a stroller or someone that's, using some sort of mobility device. So it really is for everyone. And they keep human beings out of the way of cars, which we have prioritized in American cities over the last couple of decades. But also, it's just like a smooth, safe, wide, well-lit, accessible sidewalk is safer for everyone, and just particularly people with disabilities. I have to say, if I have friends who use power chairs, these things weigh hundreds of pounds. So that little curb, that little lip, or like a break in a sidewalk that you can hop over as an able-bodied person, if you hit that with your power chair, that can dump you out of your chair. I mean, it can do things that we just can't even imagine. We don't even notice because maybe something as simple as a crack in the sidewalk doesn't affect us in the same way.
Right. And if there's no sidewalk at all, like it's barely navigable. Street. Yeah, it's in the street, or you're on dirt, or you're on
gravel, or
someone's
grass.
lawn. Yeah. So talk about how sidewalks have historically been built and maintained in Denver, because I did not know about this. I assumed that, you build a city exists and, the city then builds a bunch of sidewalks wherever there are residences or businesses, there are sidewalks. And that is the job of the local government. They do it. They pay for it out of our tax dollars.
Yeah, it's not that. Simply put, it's not the government, or at least before this ordinance that we're going to talk about, it was not the government's responsibility. It was the property owner's responsibility. So if a property owner just didn't put a sidewalk in when their house was built or the developer didn't, there may not be a sidewalk there. And my house is one of those houses. You can walk down my block and there'll be a section of sidewalk in front of someone's house. Then there'll be a house with no sidewalk. Then there'll be more sidewalk. I have no sidewalk.
Out of here.
Yeah,
like literally one house will have a sidewalk.
I am that house.
So is that your responsibility?
Technically, yes, it was up until 2022. What you would see in Denver is, so for instance, the neighborhood I grew up in versus the one I live in now. I live in Barnum, which is on the west side of Denver. I grew up in southeast Denver in Virginia Village, which is a planned suburban community from the 50s, right? It's exactly what you think about. It's 50s ranch houses. It's a whole neighborhood interconnected with like alleyways and cul-de-sacs, right? That was developed by a developer that built all the houses in that particular neighborhood and section, and that developer built the sidewalks. The neighborhood I live in now, it is a real free-for-all over here. There was no neighborhood plan. It's really dependent on the neighborhood. It's dependent on the lot. It's dependent on who the builder was, when they built it. It's really up to who built that structure initially.
And again, going back to before this ordinance was passed, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, if you, Bree, wanted to put in a sidewalk in front of the 60 feet in front of your home, the 60 feet of frontage, could you do that? How would you do that? How much would it have cost you? Sure. Does anyone do that just for one house?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think it would, I Googled it because I was like, what would it cost me to put in my own sidewalk? A couple grand, depending on what you have to do. You have to check with the city, I think, for sure. Anytime. It's kind of like if you're going to dig kind of thing, if you're going to plant a tree or something, you want to check where your gas lines are. But it's kind of up to you.
So you described Denver's sidewalk situation. Do you know if that is a common policy in cities around the U.S.? Were there other cities like Denver where it is really the homeowner that builds it?
Yes. So I did a little cursory Google search to find this out. And I just randomly Googled like California, Tennessee, Idaho, all overall had similar approaches. It was the property owner. So I think this is an American problem, to be honest with you, and cities just not prioritizing this over the last 100 years.
Okay. So what issues has it caused Denver that you have this erratic sidewalk grid in the city?
Sure. So according to the city of Denver, as of 2022, when this ordinance was passed that we're about to talk about, Denver had 300 miles of missing sidewalks and 830 miles of sidewalks too narrow to meet basic ADA standards. So it was kind of an epidemic, I think, especially by pedestrian advocate standards. There's just a lot of places in the city that are not accessible to people, not connected to do those things you were talking about earlier, maybe, public transit or getting around your city, that were just, it was not prioritized by the city itself. So I live off of a very busy street called Alameda. There are whole sections where the sidewalk is either broken or missing. And in the wintertime, especially when the sidewalks don't get plowed also by the city, the street does, you will see people using wheelchairs in the street of a 6-lane street across, riding in the street to get around. So, I mean, the issues that it causes, it's dangerous. It's just dangerous for everybody. I mean, there's definitely we have a thing called Vision Zero here, which is supposed to be reducing pedestrian deaths, which has actually not happened at all. It's gone up. And a huge part of that, I think, is the lack of safe infrastructure for people.
Don't miss Folger Theater's How Shakespeare Saved My Life, playing now through July 5th at Folger Shakespeare Library. The autobiographical solo comedy by Broadway star Jacob Ming Trent has been called a vivid, deeply personal narrative about survival, resilience, and the transformative power of language by stage and cinema. Born with a gift for poetry but rejected as unfit to play the part of a poet, Ming Trent invites us to take a deep dive into the crevices of his youth. Calling on the bard and a host of genius rappers, half-crazed preachers, and soulful poets, he takes us on a propulsive ride that reaffirms the power of language and music. Folger Theater delivers yet again, says the Washington lobbyist. Go see it, bring a friend, talk about it after. Tickets start at $20 and can be purchased online at folger.edu or by phone at 202-544-7077, Tuesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Get yours today.
Okay, so comes the Denver Deserves Sidewalks initiative. What is it? Where did it come from? How did it come to be? Who was driving it?
Sure. Okay, so before this ballot measure that Denverites passed in 2022, which again, we will talk about, the reality was this, like, according to the city auditor in 2020, you could call 311 to report a broken sidewalk. And the city auditor estimated it could take up to 50 years to get it replaced or fixed. That was the level of priority of sidewalks here in Denver. But you could call that same 311 and report a pothole in the street. And our Department of Transportation and Infrastructure would promise to have it fixed within 3 days, David. So you could wait 50 years for a sidewalk, or you could get your pothole fixed.
Stat. That's a great stat, Bree.
It's such a real, it kind of exposes Denver's terrible side of how much we do love cars. And I know this is a common problem of many American cities, but that was literally the prioritization of sidewalks, nil. And before this, right, like I said, it was this like piecemeal process. We've had some GO bonds, some general obligation bonds that voters would approve from time to time that would cover infrastructure projects. So maybe an infrastructure project along 8th Avenue is getting taken up currently, which was covered by the GO bond. That means 8th Avenue and that section will get a new sidewalk. But that's how sidewalks got taken care of. Enter this amazing group here. It's a pedestrian advocacy group called Denver Streets Partnership, and their executive director, Jill Locantore, she is the person behind this entire thing. This entire ballot initiative, I mean, obviously it was a coalition of groups to get it on the ballot, to get the signatures, but this was all Jill's idea. And Homegirl is relentless. She has been working on the sidewalks issue and the pedestrian safety issue here for over a decade. And so basically, she put this proposal together for a ballot initiative, which we'll get into the details of in a minute. But basically, it was like, hey, we're going to take care of our sidewalk problem as a city, and we're all going to vote on how we do that. And she got enough signatures. It made it on the ballot, and Denverites passed it.
Okay, so what did this initiative do?
So it's Initiative 307 passed in 2022. And basically it shifted the sidewalk responsibility, the replacement and brand new repairs and everything away from property owners and directly onto the city. And how it did this was it created a citywide fee, both for commercial and residential property owners. And it was based on how many square feet of your property faces the street. So it passed with 55% of the vote. This is how much people were like, yes, please, I will take a fee if the city will take ownership of the sidewalk problem. Implementation was delayed several years because there was just a lot of fighting over how much it was actually going to cost. So that's when they came up with this $150 flat fee, because honestly, the biggest pushback that this ordinance got was from local elected officials themselves. They were like, we don't want to burden people in Denver with this cost. But it was passed. I mean, this is what voters wanted. So once they came up with this $150 flat fee, that's what it went with. So it shows up every year, twice a year on your stormwater bill. You get charged $75 twice a year. And unless you are a low-income individual who gets help with we pay for trash as well. Recycle and compost are free here, but you pay for trash. And there's an assistance program for folks who pay for trash. If you were one of those people in the assistance program, you automatically opted into the reduced fee. And I think it's about 20% off. So they do try to address the financial accessibility issues of that. But that's basically what happened. 2022. We passed this ordinance, and now I think it was 2025, they finally came up with this fee, and now we pay this fee every year, and eventually our sidewalks will be fixed. I mean, I think that's the biggest conundrum of this whole thing.
So if you rent, you don't pay, but your landlord pays.
Yeah, but I would assume it, like any fee that a landlord is paying, it's going to trickle down to your rent in some capacity. Right. So yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. And renters are often most impacted by these things. So yeah.
And commercial buildings are also paying. It's not just
absolutely
in front of my home.
Yes. Anybody that's got a sidewalk in front of them is paying for it.
How much roughly will that raise every year?
So I have to say the cost of this goes up and down depending on who you talk to and when you talk to somebody. I looked at articles going back to 2022 all the way till now. And as of July of last year, the city estimated it would collect about $108 million per year over the next 3 years from these fees. And so that's what they're starting with. But again, we're looking at 300 miles of new sidewalks and improvements to be made of the more than 1,200 existing sidewalks. And the estimation right now is around 9 years to get all of this taken care of. But again, I think that that's a very generous guesstimate to cover all of the sidewalks that need repairing, replacing, or fixing across an entire city.
Right. So the number I saw was that at the previous rate, it would have been 400 years. Now they say it'll be 9 years.
Yeah.
But like I looked at the 2025 number, and only 10 miles were built or widened of the 300 missing miles.
I mean, I think that we're just kind of looking at the struggles of a municipality in general, trying to prioritize this. Again, the money is there. So, there's a source of funding for it, I should say. So that part is taken care of. But they're under contract with, I think, a couple different contractors to create a master plan of how to address this. And they've already started. So they've started on a couple neighborhoods where there were major whole missing sections of infrastructure. But like I said, I think we were looking at like 40% of sidewalks were either missing or broken. And it's just a big daunting task that I think they're still trying to figure out how to do. And that's part of why it's going to take so long.
Right. I guess my advice to your mayor, Mike Johnston, my advice would be, you cannot sleep on this too long, because if people get the sense like we're getting taxed for it, there's a big pot of money, and where are the sidewalks? That will cause a backlash. So they better start building it.
Yes. And I think the other thing is, like, we know this because we're journalists and we look at this stuff all day. There's different pots of money for everything in the city. However, if people see the city spending money on other things and not getting these things done in what seems like an adequate timeline, I absolutely agree with you. They'll be like, why did you buy that building downtown Denver, which we've done multiple times in the last year, but I still don't have a sidewalk, Yeah. So visually, yes, perception is everything.
Does this remain popular?
I think so. I don't think people are, I feel like people aren't necessarily talking about it as much because we passed it and it's just one of those things we're now paying for. But like I said, the city has been struggling with a lot of other things. Our budget is short. We're in a hiring freeze. They laid off 169 people last year. We've had issues with the fact that our parking enforcement office isn't even staffed, so people can't pay their parking tickets. There's a lot of other issues that have come to the fore since 2022 that I think are not necessarily distracting from it, but there's a lot of stuff Denver's dealing with right now, and I don't know if sidewalks are necessarily top of mind for everybody at the moment. It's still a problem, though.
So what can our listeners in other cities take away from this conversation to make their own city better?
I'll take this back to Jill Ocantore. This is one person. She had a group of 50 different organizations she was working with to get this thing on the ballot, but it started with one person yelling about accessibility and you could see Jill everywhere. She's on the street. She's doing walking tours with elected officials to show them what's going on. You can be that guy. If this is something that your issue or that your city deals with, it takes one person screaming really loud sometimes for the whole city to pay attention. And it was clearly something that a lot of Denverites cared about. If 55% of us voted to pay for the sidewalks we don't have.
Let's go to our word on the street segment, our word on the sidewalk segment, Bree. Let's keep it on sidewalks. And I would like to have a conversation with you, a debate with you, a struggle with you about what forms of activity are acceptable on a public sidewalk. So I made a list. I sent you my list of things. And I'm curious, we're each going to sort of offer our quick opinion on this. Is biking, cycling acceptable on a public sidewalk?
I think it's contextual. If you're, again, on the 6 lanes of Alameda, and even if there was a bike lane on Alameda, I wouldn't ride in it. I understand people riding on the sidewalk. Neighborhoods or areas where there's a lot of pedestrians, I'm going to say no.
I think I agree with you, which is that it is a probably shouldn't be, but there are times when if the road is so dangerous or you're just trying to get off the road, there's there are exigent circumstances where you can do it. I also think this goes to a second category, which is child biking. If you're biking with a child, then probably the sidewalk is where it's at, unless there's a really great bike lane. What about scooter or electric bike?
No,
Sidewalk?
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. You're riding a motorized vehicle. Like, I just find that there's also a lack of awareness a lot of times with the folks that choose to use these on the sidewalk. Again, I understand if it's like an area where there's no possible way to be in the street. I do want to say we do have bicycle infrastructure, but there are whole areas where all of a sudden the bike lane disappears and you're just stuck literally in the street or on the sidewalk. So in really dangerous cases, yes, but no, absolutely not. Generally speaking, please don't ride your electric scooter
motorized
on the
vehicle.
sidewalk.
Yeah, keep that off the sidewalk.
Please.
Agree. Okay, that gets to the next one. Can I, on a public sidewalk, park my electric bike, my bike, or my scooter?
I would prefer you not. And I know there has been some moves here in Denver to create sort of corralled areas in parking spots, which I think is genius. But generally speaking, if you're parking it on the sidewalk, you are probably impeding someone's ability to use the sidewalk.
Okay. Can I use a public sidewalk, Bree Davies, to play music for money?
If there is room for a person who uses a wheelchair to pass by you while doing that, absolutely.
Can I play amplified music on that public sidewalk?
David, listen, my neighborhood is very loud. My catty corner neighbor is a taco truck and they play music. They project horror movies on the building next to them all night long. I don't care. I can't even hear noise anymore. Some people, yes, but I don't really police people's noise.
I
be honest.
So disagree with you. That is a real doesn't bother me. Therefore, everyone can do it.
I live in a city. I don't know, man. You choose to live in a city.
I know, but living in a city does not mean you are willing to subject yourself to every form of human indignity. It is a question about like what when you have it. I think the problem with noise pollution to me is that it certainly benefits the person who's creating it. Like the person who creates that noise pollution, that creates it, is creating something that they perceive to be good for them and perhaps the people they associate with. But it's a pollution because it spills over to people who have not chosen it.
Well, I will say, I guess I'm selective in my pollution. So my homies at Bien Al Pastor, what I love is they do blast music all the time, but they create an environment where there are people on my street. It's an active street, and I like that. But what if I could get rid of any noise pollution in my neighborhood? It would be the drag racing that happens right next to my house. I hate that.
Right.
I also, it's that, but that to me is the sound of speed and the sound of two trucks going 60 miles per hour on this, a half of a lot next to my house when I have a 5-year-old who can't ride his bike down the street because of that. That's where noise pollution becomes a big problem to me. So I'm selective.
I think you can't be selective about noise pollution because noise pollution is intrinsically like, your joy is someone else's pollution. And of course, there are times when it is fine for there to be music on a city street and amplification on a city street. It's just, I think there have to be rules and constraints. You can defend yourself against light pollution. You can defend yourself against smell pollution. But you can't defend yourself against noise pollution most of the time.
Listen, I have a strip club that's 1 block over from my home called Dandy Dan's, and they have had numerous unfortunate situations in their parking lot. Folks have been murdered. So they put up a security light that shines directly into my living room, like the episode of Seinfeld with Kenny Rogers Roasters. That's my living room every night, and I can't do anything about it. Like, it even shines through my blinds. It's crazy. But I also signed up to live a block from Dandy Dan's. They were there for decades before I lived here, so I kind of just suck it up. But I'm also, I don't know, I'm a big defender of what is your neighborhood when you move into it, and what do you want it to be? Though, if those things don't align, that's kind of your problem.
Yes, I think that's true. I think you should have expectations that are aligned with what the neighborhood is, and you don't have the right to moving in. You don't have the right to change it unilaterally and to demand that other people stop behaviors that they've been doing popularly for a long time. But that said, noise is.
It's your big pet peeve?
It's my pet peeve. As you get older, Bree, you're going to feel this way too.
Oh, David, please. I'm 45. I feel like I'm already ancient, but we'll agree to disagree here.
All right. Last one. Last two. Is it okay to have a sidewalk cafe on a sidewalk if it blocks the sidewalk?
Again, if you can get a wheelchair around it, it's fine. If you can't, it's not okay. It has to be accessible. We can share the sidewalks, but it has to be for its original purpose, which is to allow folks to get around.
Okay. Last one. Should children be allowed to put chalk drawings on sidewalks?
Okay, also, I'm like a huge defender of graffiti, so I would obviously say yes. And I also love the rogue nature of graffiti and that it cannot be contained and that people think that muralism is the same as graffiti. So, yeah, me, I'm also the sister of a person who's been doing graffiti for 40 years. I love it. More of it. More sidewalk chalk. More.
Bree Davies, host of CityCast Denver. Thanks for coming on Your City Could Be Better. You should listen to Bree every weekday on CityCast Denver. Thanks, Bree.
Thank you, David. This was so fun. Thanks for having me.
That is all for today's episode of Your City Could Be Better. I'm your host, David Plotz. Our producers are Lizzie Goldsmith, Aria Bracci, Priyanka Tilve, Paul Caroli, and Bree Davies. Our music is by Carl Christensen. If you are enjoying this show, please tell your friends, rate the show, and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another conversation about how your city could be better. Bye-bye.